Paul to make a small slip, and he'll power on past him.
Well, that'll be a big hoot for Volvo. 5 laps to go. Haven't won a race in Australian Super Touring competition yet.
And look at Richo on the inside here.
Oh, he's letting Morris know he's there. Don't forget Morris's car is a left-hand drive. He's sitting right alongside that driver's mirror. You see just headlights everywhere. Jim Richards now. Great run out of Shell Helix corner, up Mountain Straight, stretching the legs of the Volvo, and he's pulling ahead half a car length.
And you know what? All this is going on. These two have been holding one another up a little bit, I think. And Brad Jones is now up to 3rd place with the Audi and is lurking in the background. If anything goes wrong here, he's waiting to pounce as Richo goes round the outside.
Whoa, he's done it. Morris wants to stay in there, but he just backs off a little bit.
That's a good move.
Yes.
Paul and Jim have had problems in a couple of races ago in the Super 2-litre series, and they've flashed doors and taken off mirrors and bumper bars, so that was a good move by Jim to risk that around the outside in the wet.
Well, Jim was certainly less than complimentary about Paul's driving after the Winton round, and so that was good to see. Nice clean overtaking manoeuvre there as they came up the hill that time. So Jim Richards now takes control in the Volvo 850 at Mount Panorama, and I reckon John Cotter and the boys at Volvo will be doing handstands here. What a great result for the Swedish manufacturer. So it's Morris chasing Richards. Brad Jones in 3rd position, some 6.4 seconds behind this leading pair the last time they come across the line. Jeff Bull back in 4th. Craig Baird now in 5th with Brabham, and the 3rd of the BMWs back in 6th. Tamara Vidali in the 2nd of the Audis in 7th. The field becoming quite spaced out behind this battle, and look at Jimmy, he's really putting some real estate on Morris now.
The Volvos have had a difficult year in the British Touring Car Championship this year. They were constantly the favourites for every race. If there was a prize for being quickest in testing in a championship for that, the Volvos and Rickard Rydell would have walked away with it by mid-season. They were quickest almost every time they went to a racetrack for testing. But come the race, things didn't work out that way, and I think that was partly to do with the way that they used their tyres over the course of a race.
Fastest man on the track at the moment is Brad Jones, a 2-minute 40.9 seconds the last time around. He's 6.4 seconds down. There he is.
That's not 6.4 seconds.
Brad Jones, since he crossed the line that time, he's made up an enormous amount of ground on that lap, and he's on a real charge. As the rain continues to come down, I guess now is where you'll see the real advantage of four-wheel drive.
It'll be very interesting to see. You're talking before about the Volvos and their qualifying, like what they do in practice. They can use the rear tyres and put them on the front and get an extra speed out of the tyres, whereas the rear-wheel drive cars are using them pretty well equal. So,
take the line once again. 4 laps down, 4 to go. Just gone half distance in the 8-lap Super Touring race, Mount Panorama. And Brad Jones, oh boy. Now
3 seconds quicker on that lap than Jim Richards. There's a measure of the advantage that four-wheel drive gives you.
When the weather comes down, when it's really, really torrential, now you start to see the advantage of four-wheel drive. 3 seconds at 2:36.89. Jimmy did a 2:39.10. So Jones on a major charge here. He's still got plenty of time to catch up. There's Morris. And he's catching him hand over fist as they come through. There's Jeff Full. Oh, what a shame. Jeff Full was running in 4th position. Looks like he's gone up the escape road, either at the end of pit straight or the end of the main straight. Jeff Full in the Foxtel Racing Peugeot was having a great run there. Jeffrey Full, a pretty experienced hand at Bathurst too. And look at Jones now in the Oryx Audi, just taking big chomps out of Morris's lead. Be right on him as they come down the mountain this time.
Well, I'm surprised here. I thought these new tyres on the Diet Coke BMWs would certainly do the job around here.
So Brad Jones closing in on his BMW prey. He's certainly been having a fantastic year, Bradley. 36-year-old from Albury, multiple stock car champion. Look how close he is to Morris as they come down toward Castrol Skyline. He just drives right around the outside. Thanks very much. Into 2nd position. I think Paul just surrendered there.
Brad Jones is certainly going to be pumped for the start of the Group A race.
The four-wheel drive not only gives a traction advantage, of course, it also gives a braking advantage. It makes the car much more stable under braking.
It really has been the dominant force in Super Touring this year, as you well know, Charlie. First in the championship currently with 139 points. He's had 6 pole positions, 7 race wins, 2 fastest laps from 12 races. Absolute dominance from the A4s in 96.
Yes, Brad's got a great hold in the championship, and I don't see him being beaten. But I've been running in the BMW as well, and I've been sort of running 2nd and 3rd of the BMWs, so the Audis, the Oryx Audis are certainly in a class of their own.
Well, now he's got to try and see if he can close the gap to Jim Richards. Just seconds off him last time around. We'll check that gap next time. 2.5 seconds the gap last time between Morris and Richards. Morris now has just been swamped by Brad Jones in the Audi. Can't see Richards in that shot. Oh, there he is, yeah, through the spray. So Richards well within sight of Brad Jones as they swing onto pit straight. 3 laps to go.
Jim's going to try his hardest to hold Brad out for these 3 laps.
Well, Jim's up the game a bit.
Well, he has. He's just lopped 2 seconds off. A 2:37.9 for Jimmy, a 2:36.2 for Brad. So Richards really has got the stick out. 2.5 seconds the gap that time around. So see if Brad can close it in his remaining 3 laps.
Yeah, the difficulty for Jim seems to be that Brad's got a bigger stick. He seems to be able to just pull that extra little bit.
He only took 1 second off him that time around as opposed to 3. But the weather is just changing all the time. We're getting big dumps of rain, then it backs off a little bit, and another big dump. So it's very changeable conditions. Bradley Jones taking full advantage in the 4-wheel drive Audi. Up toward BP cutting. Richards well within view in the Volvo. The first time Jimmy Richards appeared here really just made a lot of people stand up and take notice. Right back in 1974, turned up here in a Tirana. Rod Coppins from New Zealand. The car virtually had no brakes. Richards was just doing some sensational lap times in the wet with a car that really wasn't working well. Finished 3rd, and a lot of people thought he's a guy to watch.
It was extremely windy. I remember camping up on top of the mountain, which is the only time I've ever done it, and I don't think I'll ever do it again.
So Richards, a rain master, no doubt about it. Bradley Jones trying to close on the Volvo driver. And keep in mind, there's better things to come for Volvo. We've just seen the new sleek S40 Volvo prototype being tested in England under the TWR umbrella, designed to replace this current 850 model Volvo in next year's BTCC. The new S40 goes on sale in Australia in March next year. So if Volvo Australia can even get their hands on an S40, or maybe even the 96 spec 850 for next year, they have a good race package.
I think even a 96 spec car, there is a large difference. I mean, John Clellan was saying that there's anything up to 3 seconds difference with the tyres and the 96 spec cars as well. The leap forward that these guys take every year, they spend the entire winter just developing the next car. And the new Volvo, the S40, won't be any lighter than this car. What it is it's smaller. It has a smaller front area, and it'll be even quicker down the straight.
It looks very much like a 3 Series BMW. A lot of people refer to it. Very, very narrow, sort of small, wedge-shaped, compact car. And with the sort of power this car's got, there's one in trouble.
Stephen Boyd, isn't it?
Stephen Boyd from Queensland. The old BMW M3 hasn't made it up Mountain Straight. And he'll be getting very wet if he sits on that fence for much longer. So, disappointment for Stephen. 2 laps to go. So, Jimmy Richards.
I think Jim can actually hold on to this.
He has. He's brought it down again at 2:35.82. And Bradley just 4/10 faster than him in these conditions. So, Jimmy is really matching the speed of this Audi. 2.1 seconds the gap. Brad just took another 4/10 off him. So, with 2 laps to go, Jimmy could well win this race.
How much of a problem is it in these conditions with cars misting up and whatnot, visibility, Charlie?
Well, quite a lot, and of course we don't do a lot of racing in the rain, and it's one of the forgotten things that teams don't put a lot of effort into is clearing that mist away. But certainly after the last couple of rounds we've had wet weather in the 2-litre races, so most of these cars now will be pretty well equipped with some sort of a bilge type blower in there and blowing air, so I don't think that would be a problem today.
I certainly remember the disaster here back in 1992 when none of the teams were prepared with the current heated screens they've got, and it was just diabolical with all the screens fogging up. They couldn't see where they were going.
Well, I remember driving down the straight in one of Alan Moffat's Sierras, and I was actually driving down the straight flat out and looking out the side of the car, and of course I've been here so many times I knew what driveway was where and how far that was away from the next corner. I'd start braking because you couldn't see out the windscreen.
And all that at 250 kilometres an hour.
Not a lot of fun.
Stick with the microphone. Down the hill for the second last time, Bradley Jones desperately trying to close the gap to Jim Richards. Headlights ablaze. You can just see fogging up on the camera lens there how wet it is at Bathurst. Had a beautiful sunny week leading up to the race. But there's a good shot of what we're talking about from the Channel 7 chopper. Low visibility, plenty of cloud, heavy rain, thunderstorms even forecast in this lot, so it's going to be a long, difficult day for teams competing in the AMP Bathurst 1000. Looking Looking back at third position, Paul Morris running all on his own. He was in that battle for the first few laps. As Charlie said, we expected more from the car with the tyres, particularly after the performance of Phillip Island, but he just hasn't had the consistency, and he's dropped right off that leading pair. 6.8 seconds the gap now between Brad Jones and Paul Morris.
Yeah, the three BMWs running third, fourth and fifth. Craig Baird in fourth and Gary Brabham. So Jeff Brabham in fifth.
So back on toward pit straight. 1 lap to go for Jimmy Richards. He's our third place main. Craig Baird, Jeff Brabham, Tamara Vidali behind Jeff Bull now is back on the track running in 7th position. So field has really become strung out behind our leader.
All those Volvo people, I'm sure their heart rate will be up at the moment with 1 lap to go. They want this car to win.
Johnny Cotter is a great enthusiast for motorsport, very much behind this push by Volvo to be involved in local motorsport, and he will have everything crossed. But look at Brad Jones. It was 1 second as they came across the start-finish line that time around. He's closing on the Volvo, hand over fist. Richards holding that 2.1, 2.5 gap for most of the laps. But now, Brad Jones ready to pounce right up behind Jim Richards as they come up toward BP cutting for the final time.
Well, the pace you'd expect the car to have a disadvantage would be coming up the hill with the weight and so on. Brad's managed to hang on to him there.
A lot of people wonder about the difference here, why the Audi, I guess, isn't so dominant in wet conditions. The big difference with that and the Nissan GTR was the GTR had something like 600 plus brake horsepower, where the Audi is dealing with about the same horsepower as the Volvo.
Yeah, it's the same horsepower. The Audi is certainly heavier, and even on a small circuit, the Audi is slightly slower because you're driving 4 wheels and it's taking more power out of the engine. So Bathurst just pronounces that fact.
Well, look how close it is here. Just Bradley jumps out of the spray for a second. Right on Richards as they come down the hill for the final time. Jimmy, a tremendously experienced driver, and he's got a pretty big car there if he wants to. I
think Jim will position this car on the right side of the straightaway so it doesn't get past at Caltex Chase.
This is the one situation where you'd want the Volvo to be as big as it is. Under brakes for tyre power turn, the final time down Conrod. Jimmy will be looking for a nice fast entry on full power. Last time down Conrod, stretching the legs of the big 5-cylinder Volvo 850. Bradley Jones trying to pick up the toe. Sitting in the spray, but Jimmy's got a good run under Conrod. So I have to make a mistake if Bradley Jones is going to push his way through. We take race cam with Brad on the final run through Caltex Chase. 250 kilometres an hour in the dry, probably not that far off in the wet. Under brakes for the left-hander in Caltex Chase. I think Jimmy's done it.
Yes, he has.
He's managed to hold Jones on the straight. If he gets this last corner smoothly, he'll come onto pit straight and win Volvo's first Super Touring race in Australia. Final turn, Jimmy Richards.
Oh, very well.
And he takes the checkered flag from Brad Jones in the Audi. Third position should be Paul Morris. Craig Baird in 4th with Brabham in 5th. And aren't they happy about that? The big Swedish taxi, they call it. It's got plenty of speed at Mount Panorama. Jimmy Richards using it to the maximum. Great drive from Jim, showing all his experience and his enthusiasm to hold out Bradley Jones in very difficult conditions.
By far the best sounding engine out there in that Volvo too. I never thought I would actually say that, but I am, and it's a great sounding car.
Well, I tell you what, the way Volvo's going, the next 5 years as they get towards the year 2000, I think Volvo will be a very different car company by the time we get to the turn of the century. Let's check them out, how they finished on the Shell Helix scoreboard. Jim Richards, of course, winning, great drive that. Brad Jones closing, but not quite close enough into 2nd position. Paul Morris hanging on in 3rd. Craig Baird was in 4th. And Jeffrey Brabham in the 3rd of the BMW Motorsport cars, finishing in 5th position. That's the top 5. We'll be back with more from Mount Panorama in just a moment.